Welcome to the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I'm the Entrepreneur Coach Bri Seeley. My mission is to help female entrepreneurs like you have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success, then to gather the resources, tools, and knowledge you need to create your most aligned and profitable pathway to your vision of success. This podcast is all about providing you with a nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Forget the success porn and the rags to riches stories. Each episode will pull back the curtain and share the reality of entrepreneurship. I cannot wait to be part of your journey. Hey everyone, welcome back. Bri Seeley here, and I am joined today by Emelina Calder. Emelina doesn't actually know this yet. I haven't told her this yet, but she is the first duplicate guest that I have ever had on the podcast. And two, her episode is one of the most listened to episodes of my podcast ever. Welcome back, lady.
I'm going to cry. Is that true?
Yeah, I checked stats. We just hit the 4-year anniversary and I was going to do the top episodes of blah, blah, blah. Didn't get around to it, but I was like, oh, Emelina's episode is the most listened to episode.
Thank you for not telling me that beforehand. You're catching my actual reaction. I'm literally going to cry. I can feel that in my heart. Holy crap. I will share that one more.
I love it.
That was such a moment in my life too, because it's all around decision making, that episode with you.
I'm excited for this episode because as we are obviously catching up beforehand and prepping, you and I talk all the time about how quickly we both evolve. Mm-hmm. And where you're at right now in terms of your manifestation practice, how you set goals in your life, how you go after those goals. A lot of women come to me with these big, audacious, delusional goals that other people in their lives say, oh, that's impossible, or that's unattainable, or that's whatever. And the gap between where people are and those big goals that they have for a lot of women seems really insurmountable. It does seem like it is impossible. So I'm excited to chat today about how you manifest, how you maintain the energy of that big vision, even when you're not there yet, and how you keep moving forward in the process, because we all know, as much as we would like to wave our magic wands and have our realities changed overnight, that can often be a shock to the system. And so I'm just excited to chat with you more about your process, how you integrate your nervous system into these big goals and then build it step by step.
I love this topic so much because I don't know that I would have known to talk about it without you bringing it up.
For anyone that doesn't know, Emelina and I actually met in December of 2019, so right before the pandemic hit. We just happened, quote,
the universe.
At the same hotel in Sedona, going to the same yoga class, totally serendipitous. Since then, both of us have dramatically changed our realities. So for me, from the outside in, watching your journey, seeing you manifest, seeing you go after these big things, achieve them, continue iterating, continue growing, continue healing, I think you're the natural person to have this conversation with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I forget the length of time that you have known me and how we've worked together and synced up with each other. I've changed everything since I've known you, which is beautiful because the fact that you're still in my life means the core of me and the core of you is still the same, and we're shifting at the same rates, which is really cool.
Yeah. Talk to us first off. How do you know when a goal is for you? We all get ideas and inspirations and, ooh, that could be fun. And, ooh, what about that? And, ooh, that looks shiny. How do you know and decide and claim this goal is for me? This is a goal I'm going after.
That's really interesting. I'm not intellectual about it, is the first thing that I'll say. I used to be, but I find that when you're intellectual about the goals, when I'm intellectual about the goals, they don't stick enough. They seem to be rooted from a place of needing validation from someone else, from society, needing to be seen in a certain light more than an actual expression that I have within myself. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because when you have a goal that is more mentally focused, more intellectualized, more rooted in external approval, you tend to lack the motivation, the consistency, and the effort and dedication that is actually needed, the true grit that will actually be required for you to get there. So because I know that with myself, and because I don't want to fail at my big goals anymore, because it just causes havoc on your own personal self-worth. And it's no discredit to big goals, it's just understanding which do you have power for within yourself to maintain a marathon. because I don't know that I have another way of getting around it. Big, hairy, audacious goals are marathoning goals. I guess manifestation communities could paint them as we'll visualize them every day and we'll chant these mantras and it'll pop in and then it'll be great. And it's like maybe for a minute, but for you to maintain anything, that vision has to become your new identity, which is how I make those shifts. When I'm looking at different goals, I'm going to go into this in a few different ways, but I ask myself, am I willing to turn that goal into everything that I am? Am I willing to make that my identity? And if I'm not, then I bail ship early, because the experience that I have at this point within creating really big changes for myself and maintaining my own self-awareness, my own self-power, my fulfillment and my happiness that does not come from any external goal, it comes from my internal feeling. I know that I need a significant amount of power and drive internally to hit certain goals or metrics, which means they have to become part of who I am in my daily state.
What's interesting, the way that I talk about this uses different words, but it's the same thing. I always talk about when you're creating success, it's a process that happens from the inside out. What I love what you're saying about it is it takes that same concept just with different words to help people understand that they have to first become the person who has the thing before the thing comes into our external world.
Absolutely. Your ability to maintain whatever that thing is or that lifestyle, because I feel like a lot of the goals are really lifestyle patterns that we're looking for in the future. You have to be the person that is able to literally at the habitual daily moment to moment basis, maintain that lifestyle emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically within yourself. So if it's not part of your identity, you might be able to touch it and then you'll either lose it, sabotage it, break it.
Let's give an example about this. I don't know the exact stat, but the majority of people who win the lottery inevitably file for bankruptcy. And this, I feel like the crux of why that happens is exactly what we're talking about. Because the external has come, but the internal is still aligned with
a different identity.
Identity is not there for them to hold on to the external experience. So the external experience becomes fleeting. And as we all know, everything external is always fleeting. Everything. The only thing that remains constant for the entirety of all of our lives is ourselves. Anything outside of us is fleeting. So if we want something outside of us to stick, we first have to be the person who has that thing. And then it can remain aligned with us and in our reality.
Yeah. And with that, so many people will talk about becoming that person through acts of manifestation and repeating it, which is all great. But then the question becomes, but is that your true authentic self? Or have you just become an actor to get something from this world that you think is important? And if you're acting, no discredit to it. It's just, again, not sustainable. And when that foundation of that acting is broken later and something isn't the way that you want it to be exactly, you're going to move into an ego death and a dark night of the soul. In dark nights of the soul and ego deaths, it's like your identity breaks. And when your identity breaks and you don't know who you are and what you're rooted in, you question everything around you, which is necessary on the spiritual path. We all get there at some point. But they're very, very painful. So if I can avoid them, I do. I don't like building up false identities anymore because they hurt when you fall.
That was the entire crux of my fashion label. I had become this fashion designer. When I shut down my fashion label, I had 9 months of having to deconstruct everything, every narrative, every story, every bit and piece that I thought was myself, but was really just all these things that I had picked up and put on that wasn't the core essence of me. It was just, like you said, acting or this external identity that wasn't rooted. My self-worth was not there. My value was not there. My impact was not there. And I had to dismantle everything in order to reemerge as who I've become. Obviously, again, more unpacking over the last 9 years of this business, but also that was definitely a huge identity death for me that had to happen.
Yeah, to become the real OG Bri Seeley. Actually, this is so beautiful. I'm so excited that we're having this conversation because I'm thinking back to the episode that we shot, which I can't remember. Maybe it was like 2020. We met right before my ego death. I had built myself up into an entire false identity around being a social media expert. Let's talk about big, hairy, audacious goals because I was jumping after them. I got into the New York Times. The New York Post was contacting me. The Wall Street Journal was calling me. Oh my gosh, a Political magazine ran an article about me on the front page that I got a lot of shade about online, which was hilarious because of how the reporter made it a really funny article. I thought it was very funny, but people didn't like that. Within that time period, it was like a time capsule around when I met you. BuzzFeed interviewed me. They did this entire video article that ended up not publishing, which I can get into that briefly as well. I had so many press publications come to me around this persona that I had built up, and they wanted to publish me. And BuzzFeed told me, when this publishes, you're probably going to get 300,000 followers. This is what happened the last time we did this. And here's what happened. I started reaching this pinnacle of success, and then I started questioning absolutely everything because I hated this version of myself, because I had constructed her for external approval from the world as a false version of myself, which was a version of myself that I thought would gain approval from others. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to spin it, I did gain that approval from others, which destroyed my internal confidence because it just further split the divide between, oh, Emelina, you have to act and pretend in order to gain validation, approval, love, and respect. You can't by any means just be yourself. That success blew up that divide within myself. So I felt like I was living two different lives. Everybody's going to do this a little bit differently, but because of how innately also tapped in and spiritual I am, and I was also very spiritual at that point as well, I didn't want to feel that divide. So I naturally unmanifested, not everything, but a lot of it. The BuzzFeed, I worked at it and I didn't know why. I was like, why am I self-sabotaging this? Why can't this pull through? I want the followers. I want the press. And it's like, no, Emelina, you were creating a false version of yourself, and then you have to keep that up, and it's not who you are. That set me on an entire journey to figuring out, who am I? What's actually a priority for me? I had an immense ego death, which you experienced me at least on the outskirts kind of going through. I changed relationships. I changed cities. I changed my career. I changed everything all at the same time by some grace of God, because I am a channel. My spirit guides were guiding me through the whole process. I also had lots of coaches taking me through the process as well, to the point where I am now very acquainted to my priorities, very happy in my little seated throne of self-approval. All of that to say, we can chase a lot of big, hairy, audacious goals, and it just depends on where you're chasing them from. Are you doing it from a sense of, I need that in order to be loved, validated, approved in any way? Or am I doing it because that's who I am? I think it's a tough question for people, and I'm happy to go into it more in depth as we walk through the conversation.
The hard part is I see a lot of women going for the former that you said. I've had so many conversations with women that are like, I need to get a PhD in order to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you don't have to go back to school to be worthy of claiming the goals that you have. You don't need more letters after your name, because you're going to get those letters after your name, and you're going to be right back to the same spot where you don't have clients, you don't know yourself. Those things, okay, yes, there are certain industries where you do need to have a piece of paper. Great. If you're in one of those industries, by all means. But if you're doing it to validate yourself and say, I am worthy. And unfortunately, I know way too many women that have gone down these roads, and then they get there. Wherever you go, there you are. You're going to meet yourself there again. She's still going to be there, facing the same shit, just with more debt and more letters behind her name.
Let's add another one to that might be a little more painful than I don't know if people look at. With more time, how much time did that take? 4 years, 6 years, 10 years? Now you're a decade older. I think about that one a lot. How much more time do I want to put in between me and my happiness and my goals?
That is a hell of a question. Let's just repeat that quickly in case people didn't catch it the first time. How much time do I want to put between me and my happiness? All right. We pick our goal. We decide, I'm willing to be in the marathon. I'm willing to do the identity work. I'm willing to commit. Then what? I think that the gap between that commitment point and the actualization of it can also be, for example, I'll be super transparent. I set a goal 7 years ago that I wanted to be a 7-figure entrepreneur, and I'm not there yet. A lot of my work has been becoming and identity work and all sorts of stuff. But some days I wake up, do I really want it? Is that really something that's important to me? Can I just be okay with less? I feel like there's a lot of questioning for a lot of people that happens between that commitment point and the actualization of it. How do
I
you hold that vision when you're in the marathon?
I want to talk specifically to your goal because I have the same goal and a different approach about it. I shot a video on this the other day. I haven't published it yet, but I was thinking, oh, should I be public about this goal when I haven't reached it yet?
There's a lot of shame around it. I was very public 7 years ago. And
Yeah.
truth be told, a lot of people look at me and they assume that I'm there already. There has been a lot of shame over the last 7 years of like, well, people think that I'm already this person. People think that my business is already there. I should already be there. It has been super vulnerable for me to talk about as well because I'm not there yet. Am I doing it wrong?
No, I have so many things to say about this because I have the same goal. So let's totally jump into it. First of all, I mean, the way that that's being looked at, it's just like another 3 letters at the end of your name. My question would be, does it really matter? It's not discrediting the goal. We'll get into it. Does it really matter whether or not you have that exact metric in order to share what it is to be constantly reaching for it, working towards it, building yourself into it? The fact that you're already being seen that way is an indication that A, it's already yours, B, you're already there. And then the money is just the PhD letters. Like if you're in a PhD program, people in their first year aren't trying to prove to everybody else, well, but I don't know, I don't have it yet. Like I'm just in the process of getting my PhD. Is that enough? Yes. Yeah, it is. Because I'm in the same position because literally I was thinking about this the other day, shot a video around it. How have I changed my approach to moving into becoming a multimillionaire or making $1 million a year, which is the metric that I've been moving myself towards? For me, it feels like it's already done because my identity is that person. So in my mind, in the way that I manifest, I don't have a ton of importance on the number as much as I have a lot of priority around who am I, who is that version of me. This is the bridging the gap for me, is bringing all of those aspects of me into my reality now. That version of me, she's running the marathon, but not in a way that I have to finish this marathon. I enjoy running. I am an ultra marathoner. Being a multimillionaire is being an ultra marathoner. You have to enjoy running. Nobody's like, I'm going to go run 100 miles and I hate it. They're doing it because they love it. That's just who they are. I don't know who this will resonate with, but this is how I've been doing it for myself. I like being relaxed. I like having safety in my pace. I'm really sick of trying to sprint for goals and then feeling like I'm a mess by the time I get there because I couldn't maintain the pace. It was too much for my nervous system or my body. I burn out. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 15 years. It's like, how many candles can we burn? Like you kind of get sick of it at a point. And you realize you have to prioritize your health and your emotional well-being in the process. For me, I go, I've been working on this goal similar to you, Bri, probably the last 7 or 8 years. There are parts of me that would be like, oh, we're not there yet. And I'm not worried about it at all because I'm like, well, who cares if I get there in 10 years? In my mind at this point, I still get there. A very small amount of the population that gets access to that amount of personal freedom, personal authority, integrity in the way that we like to build our businesses, having total prioritization around what's important to us, how we run our lives. I like to build my business to support my lifestyle as opposed to the other way around. I'm sure you're the same way. All of those aspects of who you become in the process, part of me really thinks, who cares how long it takes you? You get there. You get there. You get to have it. You get to make it. You're in your PhD program. Some people get that PhD in 3 years and do it earlier. Some do it in 5, some do it in 7, but ultimately they're doing it. You're in process. For me, my identity really anchors into this is the person I am, and I don't need to have it right this moment in order to prove to everyone else that this is who I am. I'm in my spiritual personal PhD program of becoming a multimillionaire with integrity in the ways that feel right to me, and I'm going to move at the pace that feels right to me.
How do you prioritize then your daily actions? So I know this is another gap that a lot of people face. Okay, cool, we got the big vision. But now what do I do today to know that I'm actually progressing towards that big vision? What do I do on a daily basis?
You don't focus on the full picture. You can only handle today's problems with today's resources. Tomorrow's problems get handled with tomorrow's resources. And you can't anticipate what problems are going to come up, which is what a lot of us do, is try to solve tomorrow's problems. But you also can't anticipate what tomorrow's resources will pull forward for you. What miracles will come forward, what new ideas, what new states of awareness, what new people you'll run into that will create all these beautiful new relationships. And we don't even know where this is going. Bri, me and you in 10 years, who knows? Maybe we're on the Oscars. We don't even know. It's trusting the process. When I think about what I need to do today, I just ask for the next right step. What is the next right step that I can handle today? I don't try to take off the whole pie. I don't put myself in the stress and pressure of trying to build a multi-million-dollar business. I say, what is the next right step today in the most practical way for me to know that I'm moving the needle somewhere in my business and in my personal life in a way that brings me towards that goal, no matter how far away it is. And I focus on the small micro actions, always knowing where I'm going. I have a vision board on my desk. I have my goals written on little post-it notes. It's constantly in my vision. It's constantly in my environment. The big goals that I not only want, but I'm just culturing how I move in this world around that all of the time without pressure. For example, the multimillionaire version of myself, it's less about the amount of money. When I break down what I perceive that version of myself to be, she has a lot of freedom. So then I start breaking down, what is freedom for me? It's a lot of my desire to do what I want when I want. And then when I break that down, because I try to simplify it down to the daily process. Okay, if I can't do what I want and get in a private jet tomorrow and fly to France for the weekend, then what do I want? But that doesn't meet me and my capabilities right now. So is that really what I want? That's almost like a denial at that point. So then I pull myself back again and go, what do I want right now? And I go, you know what? I want to eat a whole chocolate bar for breakfast, and I want some coffee, and I want to go for a hike later. And this can be different for everyone, but for me, it is that simple. So I break it down and I go, well, can I give myself that either today or tomorrow? And then move my work around it. And I start to cultivate the idea that I can have everything that I want right now with what I have available for myself right now.
Pardon the interruption as we take a brief break before bringing you back to our episode. Are you an entrepreneur who feels like you're running a marathon on a hamster wheel each day, but you'd really rather be swimming with the pigs in the Bahamas or having breakfast with the giraffes in Africa? You're getting okay results in your business, but you're ready for exceptional results. It's time to hit the reset button to give your business a makeover and evolve into your next level of entrepreneurship. I want to invite you into the Reset, a 5-day business makeover to evolve your business from acceptable to exceptional. Visit briseeley.com/reset to get free access to this resource that will forever change the trajectory of your business.
Okay, so you said how to know a goal is right for you. I wanted to tap back into that because it's almost like knowing a relationship is right for you. How do you know your partner is right for you? I think about goals in the same way. There are a lot of fleeting goals, similarly to how there could be a lot of potential romantic suitors or interests for people. When we're looking at the goals that have the power from us and the desire enough to be able to do the marathon, or if we think about it like relationship, you're like getting into relationship with a vision. It becomes a relationship, which requires a lot of commitment from yourself and self-worth. Obviously, that relationship isn't a person that has thoughts and ideas. It's just you with yourself with an idea. But for me, knowing that a goal is right for me, it's constantly saying to myself, is it sticky enough? Is it truly the right goal for me? Am I waking up with dreams about it? Is it not going away? When I try to run from it, somehow it'll come back to me. What is meant for you will find you. Is it in my heart? Does my soul really feel it? Does it feel scary? I feel like a lot of the best goals for us feel terrifying because they're very activating in how we're seen in the world.
I say this often. I pick a word or a theme every single year. The year that I chose the word alignment, guess what I got?
Oh boy.
A lot of things that were not aligned for me.
Always.
When we choose a big goal, all of the sudden, all of the things that are not aligned with that goal get highlighted. And
Right.
It can be very confronting to have to look at, okay, if I'm going to say yes to this thing, here's all the shit in my life that's got to go. And not just the external stuff, the thoughts, the habits, the behaviors. What about you is not aligned with that goal that's going to have to kick it and get out?
That's beautiful. And probably a lot of people give up when that starts to happen because it looks like everything's going wrong.
I find that humans are energetic and emotional hoarders. We like to hold on to shit. Our brains attach to what we know because our brains are like computers. So you cannot open an app on your computer that is not yet first downloaded. If you have a goal, it's not yet downloaded, your brain cannot perceive it because it hasn't experienced it yet. So our brains hold on to all of the shit that we know all of the things, the people, the habits. Our brains are past making, past resuscitating machines. They're not future creating pathways. I just find that as humans, we hoard what has been because that's how our brains operate.
Okay, so if we don't know it yet and you need to download the program in, is that when you're in the process of closing that gap, you need to create a new environment where you're saturating yourself in what it would be to be like the new version of yourself, a new person. I'll just share with you guys some tools that I've used over the last couple of years. Use whatever works the best for you. But for me, when I think about being a multimillionaire, I am thinking private jets. I am thinking nice, expensive foreign cars. I'm absolutely not attached to these things. Like, I'm really not very materialistic, but these are things that I think, oh, if I have a lot of money, of course I'm gonna have a couple foreign cars. So then it's like, okay, well, what's the easiest way I could saturate that into my life right now? I'd be like, I'm going to go and rent a car. So I would rent a car and I would ask for the most expensive convertible on the lot. And I would rent it for a day, 24 hours. It was probably like $100 for the few times I've done this. So, oh, okay, for $100 investment, I can have the experience of driving a foreign convertible. Literally, this is the way that I think because I'm trying to get myself into the environment. Or for free, I can go walk onto the Santa Monica airport hangar and go see and just view some of the private jets, literally things that I've done before. Or I can go get a discovery flight where they'll put you in a 4-seater plane. I've been not actively pursuing a pilot's license, but it's on my list of things. If you want to feel levels of extreme wealth, it's accessible for under $200 to have the feeling of it.
Even things like clients who want to manifest relationships. When I lived in LA, I went ring shopping one afternoon.
Yeah.
A girlfriend of mine said to me, if you want to know what it's like to be engaged, and she was the best actress. She walked in and she's like, her boyfriend's getting ready to propose to her. I was completely single. We're on a task to like find out what ring. I actually went with her to try on her wedding dress. She was like, now you try on some too. I always referred to this as playing adult dress up. If you know you want to be a digital nomad, go sit at the Beverly Hills Hilton by the pool and work there for the day. Like you said, how can you change your environment so that you're immersing yourself in the reality that you want to be living?
There was a day, maybe around 2019, because I've been sitting in this immersing yourself in your environment mentality for a very long time. I was uncomfortable with it, but I was like, who cares? I'm going to go do it. I walked to the Beverly Hills Hotel and I slipped in, pretended I was a guest. I went to the pool, I sat down, I pulled out my laptop and I started working. And then when they came up to me, they're like, what room are you in? I gave them my last name. I told them the room. I did this whole act. It was so interesting to put myself in that environment, which for anyone that needs to know, it's not that hard. Just go to the Beverly Hills Hotel and actually just sit at the cabana and go sip on a $30 green juice. It's fine. You can get there easily, but I wanted the experience of feeling like I was staying there, which when someone approached me and asked me the room number I was in, I was like, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you. I don't know. There are these funny, like little daring things you can do, especially in Los Angeles, or if you're in a metropolitan area, it's pretty easy to get around the environments that you need to be in. I love the ring shopping, especially with a friend that's acting the part with you. You're rehearsing a version of your future. At the quantum manifestation level, you're actually opening up a new timeline of reality when you do that with believability. And the more that we occupy that state of awareness around, oh, I'm a married person, or oh, I'm in relationship, or oh, I'm a multimillionaire, I'm staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, the more that you occupy that state, the stronger the quantum timeline becomes, like the more amount of power and desire and energy goes towards it, which allows us to more easily choose when we're choosing on the moment-to-moment basis again and again and again through our marathoning of decisions, the choices that will bring us into that core fundamental reality for our lives and our future.
Love that so much. So for anyone listening, I want you to do this exercise right now that Emelina and I are talking about. What is your big goal? Obviously, first off, as we talked about at the very beginning, is your goal aligned? Is it an inner goal that you're willing to marathon for who knows how long? Make sure it's that. Then how can you start practicing that and being in the ritual of being that identity on a regular, consistent basis through the environments you're putting yourself in, obviously also through the thoughts you're thinking, the feelings you're feeling, so that the more you practice becoming that person, what happens is you just are that person. Then there's no gap. There's no choice but for that reality to come in and meet you.
And on that, to be very patient about that process.
That's where I struggle. That's the bit of a challenge for me. I'm very much a I want it yesterday person.
I'm with you. I've had to train myself into patience.
Someone actually asked me this. I was speaking at an event in New York last month, and someone was like, "How do you be patient?" And I was like, "Girl, don't. I'm not.
Don't ask me." Yeah.
Not, I said to her, "You have to like temper the big vision with what can I do today with where I am and what I have to take the next step." I feel like if we're constantly focused on the gap, that's where that impatience happens. That's where we're not, like you've said, enjoying the journey, enjoying the act of running in the pursuit of the marathon. I feel like that's where a lot of the dissonance happens for people, because we're constantly looking at the big goal saying, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet. When in actuality, we need to say, I'm here today, having this experience, creating this level of freedom, which means that that level of freedom is obviously inevitably on its way to me.
Exactly. I see patience as a long-term game. So I'm not looking for it right now. I'm saying just what you said. I know that it's mine. I know that I'm going to become that person. I know that I'm on my way. So that allows me to be patient because I know it's already going to be true. Well, if that's true, then what do I do right now?
The other thing that's helped me a lot, I've been very open. I was single for 12 years before I met Jordan, and I spent all of those 12 years actively dating. I had a lot of really hard moments in those 12 years. In hindsight, looking back, I'm so glad that I never compromised and that I never sacrificed myself and my vision, because it's so much better than I think I ever could have imagined it. So also looking back in your life, listener, to see when has that also been true for you, to give you a little more patience to say, not only do I know it's coming, I know it's coming and that it's actually going to be fucking better than I can even potentially imagine in this moment.
That's beautiful, because ultimately we're allowing the universe to step in and make it better by not being so attached to exactly what it looks like, but instead doing our part in the moment, which is to shift our identity in the ways that feel the best to us right now on the way to that becoming. I wanted to talk about the idea of delusion, because you had mentioned, how do you maintain being delusional? And I remember thinking about that earlier in my career as an entrepreneur, where I would say, I'm delusional. These are the goals. And the shift in this moment is I'm literally like, there's nothing delusional going on here. I am this person. Whether or not other people think so, I don't care. If you can sit in it long enough to say, is this really delusional, or is this actually who I am? And it's just the process of that being pulled out of me through me getting there. For me, these big, hairy, audacious goals feel less delusional and more like it's my natural progression. And it's not my responsibility to attend to anyone else's vision of me and how I get there, and whether or not it's appropriate for them, for me to have to prove that I'm still this person.
I use the word delusional a lot. And part of the reason I use it, I often will put it in air quotes, or even in writing, put it in quotation marks. Oftentimes that word delusion is projected upon us. Just because someone else thinks it's delusional, that's not yours. Don't pick that up. If someone's handing you a big steaming pile of shit, you're not going to take it. The projection of delusion, or unattainable or unachievable or unrealistic or any of that stuff, cool, that's true for them. Why the fuck would you buy into that bullshit?
I love that you use the word delusional, though, because I think it's where most people are. I'm delusional for this.
I had a client tell me her goal, and she's like, every time I say this goal, I sweat a little bit. And she says it, and then she goes, am I crazy?
Yes, and it's great.
Based on where she is right now, it is crazy. If that's what's calling to you, if that's what's inside of you, then let's fucking go. What do you need to do today to take one more step towards that? There's so much projection outside of us around this stuff. And for a lot of women, I'm the first person to tell them they're not crazy.
Oh, I go the other way. I'm like, yeah, you are crazy, but what's wrong with that? Like, be crazy. Who said we have to be mediocre, reasonable, and conformist? That's how I would say. So if being crazy is the opposite to conforming, call me crazy. And let's just get that out of the way. What I was hearing you touch on is other people's opinions. I talk about this a lot with my audience, because I feel like people need constant training in a world where we're being conformed to other people's opinions, because we're fit to some need in someone's life in some way that My method of handling all of this is constantly bringing my attention and focus back to myself, my own frame, and really saying anyone's opinion that's not mine. I don't want to be unkind and be like, it doesn't matter, but it really doesn't. The people that we love, their opinions matter a certain amount, but it's less about their opinion and it's more about their support unconditionally of you and what you are. So as long as you are in your own self-approval and self-validation, the people that love you will reflect that validation and approval right back to you. So they won't be, generally speaking, interjecting opinions to throw you off track. At least that's my experience.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to touch on holding the vision. The first thing I would say is know it's yours. If you feel like that's the life that you want, it is yours. It is done. God is going to help you get it. God, source, universe, infinite intelligence, your higher self, whatever language you want to use, your higher power. I feel like people really receive a lot of doubt around, is that really mine? If it's yours, if it is with source, you don't have to prove that you're worthy of it, and you don't have to fight for it. I feel like those are two things I had to train myself into understanding, is that the act of chasing, the act of proving, and the act of fighting for it is you saying it's not mine, it's not who I am, I have to try to get it. Whereas anything that is yours by divine right will be given to you. Anything that's meant for you is yours, period, end of story, whether it's a relationship, a career, a goal, an ambition. As far as I'm concerned, it's just about us in the moment saying, well, if it's mine, then I'm just going to, again, work towards it. I don't have to solve the how of everything in between. I actually don't even have to close that gap. All I have to do is say, source, I'm willing to do the next right step. And the next right step might be jotting down all the ways that I'm ready for a relationship, or writing down all the different new ideas I can begin to entertain to start a new business, or making a couple of phone calls with people that I know are already in business, trying to understand different ways I can use my gifts and talents in a way that would be available for a market transaction with an audience. And then taking those next right steps, because this is really just building momentum. Action builds momentum. And at some point, all of that momentum starts to snowball and it takes on its own life or its own momentum, where it then begins to lead you, as opposed to you having to think about what to do for it. And then your audience starts asking for things that they want or need or want to hear from you, or the opportunities just somehow land in your inbox because that momentum is pulling you forward towards the goal instead of you having to chase it down. The next core aspect about these larger, big, hairy, audacious goals is like, ask yourself, is this goal or ambition led by my need for external validation or approval? Or is it my inner soul's yearning and my deep self-expression? And the way that I work myself into that, to understand that for myself, is, would I do the thing? Would I go for this goal? Would I commit to this marathon if I was not receiving recognition, reward, and validation? For me, the things that I say yes to, and I will say yes to things that I won't get immediate reward or validation or approval for, those are the things that I put all of my eggs in that basket. I'm here for it. It's for me. It's my core authentic expression. And then naturally, the universe will align me towards, obviously, receiving validation and approval externally. My YouTube is a great example of this. I show up almost every day on YouTube. I shoot so many YouTube videos because I love it. It is also aligned with building my business, with building my dreams. So it's hitting both marks. But if you can answer yes to would you do it without the immediate reward, I think that's a good soul-led alignment.
That is a great question. I'm going to have to journal about that question too.
Then it becomes, will you do it for you?
So part of this goal for me, and I don't know what your impetus is for wanting the 7-figure goal or multiple 7-figure. For me, I want to be able to look at it and be like, yeah, I fucking did that. That's a huge part of it for me, is I went from nothing, first job, 13 years old, paying for my first Mac laptop by myself, student loan debt, other debt, business debt, whatever, to like, I fucking did that. So that's part of it. Another part of it, though, is that I feel like showing up and doing these things also gives other women permission to be like, oh, I can do that. When I made my video and said, I want to be a 7-figure entrepreneur, I had a bunch of women be like, I don't think that's for me. Even with Success Becomes Me, the Women's Wealth Conference, I was talking to someone the other day and she's like, oh, I don't really think wealth is for me. And I was like, interesting. Part of it too is in my journey, in my story, also opening the door for other women to be like, you can do this too. It's there and available for you if you want it. If you don't want it, great, super cool. I just had someone apply being like, my big, hairy, audacious goals are like basic. Is that okay? And I was like, there's no fucking thing. There's no such thing. That doesn't exist. Each of our goals is individual to ourselves, but I do feel like going for big things, especially for women, since we haven't had the representation to see that women are doing these big things as well, it gives that open doorway for more women to be like, oh, holy shit, I can want that.
As you were just saying this, I was like, hold on, this is a whole category of women that are on their way to seven figure. When you listen to whether podcasts, interviews, what have you, of women that are already at seven figures, they're explaining the gap in a very different way because they're not in the middle of it. They're already there. So I actually think there's a lot of value in us being very transparent about this process. So I feel like I can be more open about this now online. I've been thinking about that because it feels of value now. I'm like, yeah, actually, if I were trying to get there, I would listen to people that are working through it because they're going to have more granular understanding of helping me to close that gap. And for me, I think the seven figure status or lifestyle for me, when I think about it, it's about having access to resources and authority and a total complete idea of safety. No matter what I need to be safe, to be held, to take care of myself, to take care of others, to be so giving, like I could be so giving from that place, is all present in that idea, that construct of my mind.
Oh yeah, believe me, my nonprofit is going to get a big fucking donation every year. Every single year. It's just going to happen.
Women do such good things when we have money. Literally, I've been thinking about a nonprofit as well. I really want to have a nonprofit to help domestic violence victims, women specifically. It's on my bucket list of things.
I hear so often the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. There are so many women who are in financial abuse situations or domestic abuse situations, or simply were never given the opportunity to create wealth for themselves or didn't have access to women's reproductive care to be able to choose. There's so much. I always think about that weakest link thing and how I would rather strengthen that weakest link. I feel like that's my legacy work. So I get to do from both sides. I get to work with very privileged women who can invest in working with me. And then I now get to help women who don't have that privilege, but are the ones that maybe need it the most. I don't know if that's quantifiable, but
even in that container of what you just said, you're speaking to multiple aspects of yourself. It's almost like you're reaching back to a past version of yourself and saying, like, I've got you. And to the future version of yourself and saying, I've got you too. I've got all of us together here, all my little inner children.
And generationally, I talk about this in my TED Talk, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, all of those things. And I see such a radically different world for women that we do not yet currently live in.
It's coming as we each step up and do our work.
We're building it.
We're building
it. I love this. We have to wrap, unfortunately. I feel like you and I could probably sit and talk all day. Before we wrap, tell people where to find you, what your YouTube channel is, how to connect with you.
You can find me on YouTube. The channel is called I Am Woke. If you search for it, it should be the first hit. I also have a personal branding channel. So I'm doing two YouTube channels at the same time. My YouTube channel, I Am Woke, is specifically around spirituality, personal empowerment, spiritual development, energy updates every week to help give you the energetic awareness, the spiritual understanding of the energy trends, to help you move through crunchy areas of development and energies that might be coming up so that you can feel empowered. You can feel like you have substantial self-worth. You can grow your own personal confidence and your personal safety. Those are always things that I speak to and that are important to me. You can find me on Instagram at Emelina Calder, and I have a couple of free video trainings. One is on the Akashic Records, where you can learn how to open up your own Akashic Records and jump into your own soul development and use that in a way that can support your business and as an entrepreneur personally. And that's at iamemelina.com/training. And then I also have a free shamanic healing guided meditation to help strengthen your own source connection and your personal creativity and your Kundalini energy. And that is on my website, iamemelina.com/meditation.
Thank you for being a two-time guest of this podcast. This did not disappoint. I hope that everyone listening also got some really valuable insights from it. I just appreciate you so much. I can't believe we've known each other, 5.5 years now. It's just been really beautiful to witness how you move through all of these things in your life. and then have our touch points of how we get to then learn from each other.
Bri, I'm so grateful. Thank you. So honored to be on here a second time as well. This is so fun.
All right, everyone, go find Emelina on YouTube, on Instagram, grab her 2 free opt-ins that she just shared with you. Thank you all for joining. We will see you again soon. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I hope you gained valuable wisdom from this episode and have at least one thing you can act on today. As I always say, listening to this episode will not change your life. What you do afterwards will. Please be sure to leave a rating and a review of the show, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend or colleague who could use it. Last but not least, please have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success today. You deserve it.